Hello guys, it's your professor here, and I'm here to show you a little bit about the Serial Podcast website. As you're doing your research and your investigation of this case, we're using Serial, the podcast, as our primary source for this. Now, what primary source means is that it is the source that we're using, but it's not the only source that we're using this semester about the Adnan Syed case. There are several sources that you can use for this case. There's lots of sources that you can use online. There's actually an HBO documentary that's actually pretty well done that you could use. And there's a couple of interesting things on YouTube actually as well to use. And we've talked about evaluating sources before, so definitely use the tools and the skills that you have learned in evaluating sources for that. Now, I want to point out the Serial Podcast website because there's lots of great source material here as well. Not only is the podcast our primary source and very useful, but the Serial website is very useful. So I'm going to go through it and point out a couple of things here that may be useful to you as you're going and you're taking notes and you're writing things down, all the wonderful things. So let's get started. I'm here at the serialpodcast.org website, and Serial is actually a show, and there are several seasons of the show that deal with different topics. We want season 1 because season 1 is what deals with the Adnan Syed case. So you're going to go here with these 3 little lines here, which is the menu. And you're going to click here and you're going to go to season 1. And if you've been here before, this is where some of you are probably listening to the podcast straight online. And so I'm going to scroll down and you can see that all the podcast episodes are here. You're welcome to listen ahead. You are only responsible for episodes 1 through 12. These sections here are the updates, what has happened recently, very, very recently. March 2019, there was an update. There was actually something in November 2019, if I remember. So this is very recent, so it's what happens now, which doesn't pertain much to our research question. So you don't really have to listen to this or read this, but if you're interested in knowing what the outcome has been so far, you're welcome to do it. Okay? So then you have all the follow information here. So I just wanted to show this to you. And now let's go back to the menu here, because when we go to season 1 and we hover over that, we have a lot of information here on the right hand side. We have home, episodes, posts, maps, docs, etc., about, and music. So I'm going to hover over this one and go over to maps, docs, etc., and I'm going to click here, because this is where a lot of the information is, right? So we are in season 1. This did air in fall 2014, and we have lots of information here. So we have Asia's letter to Adnan, March 1st, 1999, and this is the very first letter that Asia wrote to Adnan saying, hey, I saw you in the library. There's no way you could have done this, right? And so we actually can look at this letter, and this is actually what I call source material. And what source material means, if you remember, in any of our conversations, is that it is the original source. It is not something that's reprinted. For example, when you read something in your textbook, it's reprinted from somewhere else. It probably originally ran in like a newspaper or a magazine or somewhere online. Okay, so this is source material because it's coming straight from from Asia, and it's coming from the information from the courts, right? So here is what Asia wrote to Adnan. And of course, you know, this is from the court because it's part of the exhibit that was done during the court case. So this isn't actually a really good document to use. You'll click onto this to the edge, and let me go back and show you how I got out of this. After you're done maybe looking at this, you can click on here to the edge and it'll click out. And you can go through other things. Here's another letter from Asia to Adnan. If you're listening to the podcast, if you haven't gotten there yet, this is an interesting facts cover sheet, by the way. You may want to look at. You have affidavits here, and what affidavits are just an account, someone's account of things, of how things happened. So it's almost like a witness account. It is a witness account, actually. You have a lot of notes from Asia. You have like the plans from the Best Buy where the phone call supposedly came from. And then you have some things that were created by the producers at Serial. So I'm going to click on the timelines here. Now this, I wouldn't count as source material because this was actually something that was compiled from a bunch of different sources to try to understand what's going on here. So we have Adnan's call log here, what he has actually told police, stuff from Jay's first interview, stuff from Jay's second interview, and Jay's testimony at the second trial. Because the first trial, I'm not sure if you've gotten there yet, but spoiler alert, the first trial ends in a mistrial. So they try him again. Hung jury, mistrial, I don't remember, but they have to try him again. So he is actually convicted in the second trial. So we have all this information here. Each of these counts have different information, and this is just to help make sense. So this is something that maybe if you were listening, you were like, man, I really need to like look at the call log, or I really need to compare that to like what Jay said in the testimony. This has already been done for you. This is something that producers have already composed for you. Definitely worth a look. You can use this as a source. So definitely, if you want to use this as something to put in your research log, you absolutely can. Let's see. Scrolling back down, we have other things like a people map, and this may be very helpful because there are a lot of players in this class, in this case. Adnan Syed, of course, being in the middle. He's the one that was convicted for the murder of Heyman Lee. You also have who Jay is and who Hay is, and how everyone is connected. So there's lots of moving pieces in this case. And so if you're listening to the podcast, or if you are doing research, or if you're listening to the HBO documentary, and you're thinking, who is Rabia? Who is that? I don't remember. This is a good source to come back to because it'll tell you who everyone is and how everyone is connected. Okay? Let's go back. There's lots of great information here. And I'm kind of hovering through things. I'm scrolling really quickly, but I'm pretty sure you're thinking, oh my gosh, wait, no, I want to see Hayes' note to Dawn. You can see that at your leisure. Here's another thing. I guess, again, this is not source material. Did not come from the court case. This is something that came from producers as they were trying to wrap their heads around this case. This is a timeline of the whole case from when Hay goes missing to when Adnan is actually sentenced, and just when things happened. This may be a good place to start to kind of put things into perspective here. And I want to show you maybe a couple of more things. Again, this is the cell phone log. So this came from source material, again, produced. Anything that you see here that's like really nicely like decorated is from the show producers. They created that so they can understand the case. So this came from actual source material. It is not source material. So the call log, which is really interesting as well. And just all the wonderful stuff. Evidence map. This is fun. This is fun. This is source material. And fun is not the right word. It's fun because you know this helps clear up maybe some things that are kind of floating in your head, and it's a lot of moving pieces in this case. So you have where the shell casings were found. Um, Shell casings, that's interesting. You have where hay was found, and this is just like the map of Lincoln Park where hay was found. So this is source material and used during the trial. And so you do have a lot of great information here. Please don't discount this. Um, while all of this or most of this is mentioned in the podcast, um, you may want to actually read Asia's letter to Adnan. She wrote a couple of letters to Adnan. She wrote a couple of affidavits. So this is in 2000 when the thing happened, or closer to when the thing happened, and this is 2015 um, after the podcast. So are there any changes here? I don't know. It's something you're going to um, have to listen to. Um, so there you go. I hope this is very helpful to you. And that's pretty much it. There's lots of great things there. We look at posts. And this is just like a blog that says that that the producers have put up as the case has progressed, especially on appeal. Um, there you go. And I hope that this is very helpful to you. Again, all this information can be used on your research log. And to keep track of everything, this will probably be helpful to keep track of everything. Okay? Bye, guys.